Welcome, I'm Dan, and this is the first episode of Sticker Shock Collector's Edition, the podcast where we talk to people about the things they collect, specifically things that maybe cost a bit of money or time or just take up space in their living quarters. My personal collecting hobbies kind of revolve around video games, but lately I've been really getting into collecting movies and shows, things like that, getting the physical media for those things. And from there, I've also been kind of getting into rebuilding old game consoles and things like that. With that in mind, just to set expectations for this show, a lot of the things we talk about will probably have a gaming undertone to them. But the second episode, for example, won't be specifically about video games. And I think as this goes forward, we'll talk to more and more people who collect all sorts of stuff, niche things like that. I have a lot of people in mind. A lot of people have agreed to do the show, which I'm very, very excited about. My hope with the show is, selfishly, I just want to learn about the interesting niche things that people are finding and are passionate about. But I've also found that when I talk to people about the interesting objects they collect and fill their home with, I learn a lot about them. I learn a lot about what they value, and it really changes the way I approach collecting anything myself. Anyway, this will be the only episode where I do such a long introduction for myself, but basically each episode will open with this type of format where I talk for a bit, set expectations, and then the rest of the show we'll invite our guest in, and we'll have a page on our Patreon where you can see show notes and things like that. We'll advertise all that stuff at the end though. But let's get into what I actually want to talk about today. Growing up, it was a very common practice to trade in old games for new ones. Like a new release would come out. You know, you'd finish it, maybe you wouldn't, but eventually something else would catch your interest. And I mean, if you grew up like I did, having multiple games, like too many games, wasn't allowed. So trading them up for the new thing was very normalized. So much so that multiple franchises at one point existed purely to make the process of trading in a game super easy and even fun. Now, at least in the US, we have one place for that pretty much, and we'll talk about them later. But the act of making a physical video game predates me by a long shot. I mean, the Atari was in the 1970s. I think there were probably different computers that could run games even before that. And what would happen? The games would get older, the technology would get better, and they'd stop making those older games in favor of making newer ones. So it shouldn't have been a surprise that when I went to rebuild my gaming collection, it was kind of expensive. I never really had a massive collection of games growing up, but I am trying to get my hands on some things that I would have liked to have played, or things that I did own at one time that I really, really enjoyed. And as I'm trying to rebuild that collection, I'm running into some barriers. So far, it's been pretty easy to find people selling the things that I want. But if you go to the usual suspects like GameStop or eBay, the prices are absolutely out of hand. And we're not even talking for things that are in great condition. Some stuff doesn't even come with its original packaging. And when I say original packaging, I'm not talking about the cardboard boxes that N64 games came out. I threw those away all the time. I'm talking about the plastic cases that had the manuals in them, the stuff that I figured everyone would keep because it's what you store the game in. So as I've been going through the motions here, and as I typically do when I start to get frustrated, I was venting, and I was venting to a friend of mine who, turns out, was doing something similar. He's searching online, and he's going out with his list of games he's trying to get, and he's running into the exact same issues. And I wanted to have him on as a first guest because, well, for one, it's just relevant to the things that I'm currently interested in, but two, he definitely has some interesting stories from his journeys trying to get things, and also some tips to try and help people who are also out there trying to rebuild their collections, or maybe they just want to try some retro games. Maybe they're younger and they never had this stuff growing up and it looks interesting to them. He's a content creator like myself, and it was very cathartic to sit down with him and talk all of this out. So I hope you enjoy the first episode of Sticker Shock Collector's Edition. Let's bring him in. All right, welcome, Wilbo.
Hi.
Tell everyone who you are and what you collect.
Well, I'm Wilbo. I collect a lot of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance stuff. I'm really into that. And then I also like to collect everything below Xbox 360.
So Xbox 360 and older?
Well, I just happen to have a big Xbox 360 collection, but I don't collect it. So a little older than that, like PlayStation 2, 1, Dreamcast.
How much of what you have is from your childhood that you've kind of carried into adulthood versus how much you've gone out and bought kind of recently?
Well, so when I was moving, right, I had a box and it was retro game box, right? and we were cleaning out my basement, and unfortunately, I ended up throwing it away. So a lot of my a lot of my old games have unfortunately been trashed, which hurts me every day that I think about it.
Oh my gosh.
And so, but I still have all of my Xbox 360 games, and a lot of them are like shovelware, unfortunately. So, and like Wii and all of pretty much all like the disc games I still have. So I still have my PlayStation 1 and stuff, but my like cartridge ones are kind of like gone. So
wow.
I kept like a little bit, and I've just been rebuilding my collection slowly ever since then. So
do you know, what I'm trying to do right now is make you cry. Do you know what cartridges ended up in the landfill?
Yes, I do.
Tell me the worst ones.
Okay. Pretty much all of my Pokemon games. So Pokemon Yellow, Ruby, Sapphire. I had 2 Sapphires, Emerald.
We're going to talk a little bit today about how much those are going for right now, and it's going to make me cry.
Great. All of my DS ones. So Pokemon Pearl, Diamond. I think I had Black, and all the DS cartridges that are Pokemon related, all gone. You know, and then I had a bunch of like random Game Boy games that are kind of good, like Kirby. I really like the Kirby games, so I collected those.
This is horrible.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
So
it's pretty bad.
Okay. Just trying to make it positive. Like, this is good. You know, you have kind of like an origin story here. And you're going out and you're trying to rebuild your collection. Tell me about how that's going for you.
Well, I kind of like collected before, because like I would say after COVID, it got extremely popular, but I started collecting a little before that, like in like 2015, like rebuilding my collection a little bit. So it was a little bit easier. Like I could walk into GameStop even in like 2015, 16 and find like I bought Pokemon Heart Gold for a pretty good price at GameStop. But ever since COVID, after, it's been kind of crazy. Like I can't find any good prices for some of the games. I honestly thought I would have more time, so I like slowly was collecting. But then like after this COVID hit, it's been kind of crazy with the prices.
I've noticed that as well. And it kind of feels like a lot of hobbies have been hit by this. It's just that 2020 was like the year that everything kind of feels like it exploded. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a theme because just for some inside baseball for everyone listening, I actually have already recorded episode 2 of this podcast, and that comes up in that episode. It's the exact same thing for the subject of the next episode as well. As soon as COVID hit, this particular hobby just exploded. I'm just teasing you now for the next episode. So with that coming up soon, I actually want to get into like some of the prices of this stuff because I have my own kind of like experience to share, and I'm sure this will relate to you as well. Take a guess as to how much you think a copy, like an authentic copy of Pokemon Ruby, is going for right now on eBay.
Like $112.
That's pretty close. So the range could be for one that doesn't look too bad, for like it's kind of beat up, but the label's still there and stuff. I see one for $75. There is one kind of similar for $80, but I don't have to scroll far to find one that's $130. And they're boasting that they replaced the battery in it.
Actually, so in those games for the battery, the save doesn't matter. Because it's on like the RAM.
Oh, what's the battery for in the Game Boy Advance ones?
It's for time-based events. So like your berries won't be able to grow. That's pretty much the only downside.
Okay, I was thinking of the Game Boy ones.
The Game Boy ones, the battery matters.
So new battery, your berries will grow. That's good.
Yeah.
So $70 is pretty consistent for a beat up copy of Pokemon Ruby. But if you want to find one that looks nice, 120, 140, there's another 140. I'm just scrolling through eBay right now, kind of cherry picking the big ones. And this is like the journey I recently went on because I'm also trying to collect these games again. And the thing that I found very, very interesting is that alongside these $70 to $140 copies of Pokemon Ruby, there are $20 copies of Pokemon Ruby.
Interesting. Wow. Why don't I just buy one of those, Dan?
Why don't you just buy one of those?
Because they're fake.
This is why I wanted to talk to somebody about this, because I was like, huh? And you click on them and yes, they are fake. And usually the person listing it is proudly selling it as inauthentic. Like they'll use words like hey, this isn't authentic, or they'll say a non-OEM version of the game, which is just really funny. And they do sell them at reasonable prices. And you look at the pictures and it does, when you compare them side by side, it does look like they're a little off, but they look good overall. Like, they look really good.
They look really good.
The reviews are also positive, meaning people are buying this stuff and going, yeah, it works.
Yeah. So it does work, like, but there's like a high risk that one day your save file just won't be there anymore. That's like one of the main problems with these fakes, in my opinion. Is just like the save reliability. And then also the compatibility with, like, if I were to buy a fake copy of Pokemon Ruby, I wouldn't be able to connect that to like Pokemon Coliseum or something, or I wouldn't be able to trade with a real copy. Well, some of them do. Most of them don't work with a real copy if you were going to trade Pokemon over.
Why is that?
Because the ROM is a little different, I think. I'm not entirely sure. For example, like when I was at a Classic Game Fest, it's like a festival I went to that sells classic games.
Yeah.
I took my Analog Pocket, which is like this new generation of Game Boy that plays Game Boy games. That is like a fan-made Game Boy that uses a chip called like an
FPGA?
FPGA, that's what it was.
I always mix up the letters, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So basically, they emulate what like playing like on a real console would be, but it's like with a new screen and new battery life and all that jazz. But anyway, there's this feature on it where you can put a game in and you can take a snapshot of it and you can see the name of the game. So I was looking at this copy of Pokemon Emerald because like this guy wanted to sell me one. And I took a snapshot of it and it said a different name than a regular, real, genuine copy. So that's one way I was able to tell. And then like the label is just like ever so slightly different. And you can like look, since they're translucent, and like see the inside of the board to see if it's different.
Yeah, they always look a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit off.
So how did this go? Like, did you break the news to this person that they have like a fake copy of the game? Or?
I did, in fact, do that. Because like, okay, it was like a little bigger of a retailer and they had like a few copies of Pokemon Emerald. I would say like 2 or 3. And the other 2 were genuine, but that one wasn't. And so I told them, and then they're like, oh, we don't want to sell a fake copy. Thank you. And then they took it off the shelves. And I guess they didn't put it back. So they probably bought it from somebody too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they just have to eat the loss there.
That's unfortunate. I mean, as long as they had legitimate copies amongst the fake ones, I give them the benefit of the doubt that they probably didn't know what they were.
I don't think they were trying to scam me or anything, but it's like kind of crazy that you have to look out for that kind of stuff. And most people won't even notice because most people, that's why they got such good reviews on eBay. They just want to play the game. You know, they don't care about all the trading or connectivity to other games and stuff like that. For example, I like on Reddit and stuff, I like look at the classic game kind of subreddits to see what people are saying. And this one person was really upset that they couldn't transfer their Pokemon up anymore from Emerald because their copy was fake. It wouldn't connect to Pal Park, which is how you transfer your Pokemon up all the way to the DS one. I feel kind of bad.
Yeah, I didn't know that these had like limited functionality. I figured what was happening is that the bootleggers were flashing the whole game onto the cartridge, and as long as it's on the cartridge, like what is the difference at that point? Like, because these things come into existence in Nintendo's factories. Why can't somebody make a smaller version of that factory in their garage and make these? I guess that's a factor of like, well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I think they're using like cheaper chips too and everything, you know? So like the cost to make them is a little cheaper than Nintendo. And that's why they can sell them so cheap and everything.
So when you're at this like event that you're at, it kind of surprises me that you found this at an event.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, whoa, an actual fake copy of something. This is crazy.
Yeah, I would expect a seller who is doing this professionally to kind of like do those checks, you know?
Yeah, they had to like pass it off to a few people. And then this guy was like, oh yeah, this is fake.
Right. And this thing is too, the Analog Pocket is not the only device that can kind of detect this stuff. I have the Epilogue. I forgot what it's called, like Epilogue Pro or something. It's a little device that sits on your desk. You plug it in with the USB port, and you can take any Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance game, pop it in there. And the whole point of this thing is if you are going to do a battery replacement to save your save data or something like that, you can back up the cartridge and it can like store your save data for you while you do the battery replacement and then flash your save back onto the cartridge, which is great. Like, nice little game preservation win. But it also tells you if the game is fake.
Yeah.
It's a simple little $60 device. And you plug the game in, and without you asking it, it just has a thing where it says like authentic, and like you're like, oh cool, okay, that makes me feel good. I didn't get an inauthentic game. In some cases, people don't even think about that. And so just imagine that little light turning red, and you're like, oh shoot, oops.
Yeah. I understand the appeal of like playing the fake games though, and like why, because they're so cheap, and like some people just want to experience a bit of nostalgia. But like if you're wanting to keep your Pokemon and like transfer them up, not that many people are going to want to do that. So they should at least label these very clearly that they're reproductions, but a lot of people don't do that. And some people just think they're buying the real one.
It is like, I guess a larger problem, and one that will persist as time goes on. And that is like one of the things I wanted to chat a little bit about today, because I've been wondering the ethics of this. So when I found this copy of like Pokemon Ruby and I started looking at the other Pokemon GBA games, because I would like all of them, I was thinking to myself, who's benefiting from this? So you have the people who are charging $100, $200 in some cases for these copies of games. Then you have the people who are, you could kind of look at it one of two ways: breaking the law by remanufacturing these games that they don't have permission to remanufacture, or providing a service to people, like you said, who don't necessarily need all the functionality. They just want to play this game that they never got to play when they were younger. Then you have another option. You could skip both of those parties who don't work for the Pokemon Company or Nintendo and just pirate the thing, which also doesn't feel good.
That doesn't feel good at all, no.
And it's this big ethical dilemma. Another example, I'm sure everyone's heard of it by now, DK Oldies is like one of the biggest online used game retailers that there is.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the prices I'm seeing over there they compare pretty heavily to the eBay ones. I think they are probably themselves going on eBay and buying up the cheaper ones and pull them over to their store. I don't know that. How do you get used games if you're a used game store? You wait for trades or you go and source them. So the price of Pokemon, I think Fire Red on DK Oldies was shocking. If you go on their website and type in Pokemon Fire Red, the game is listed on like their page in a few different ways. There's like a bunch of out of stock ones, and there's one like in stock listing. And I click on that. So it says $254.99, but they cross that out and it actually says $170 is like the deal that's going on right now. Like, okay, that kind of matches some of the eBay listings a little bit more. When you click into it, you find that there's two options. There's a good cartridge and a cosmetically flawed one. If you want the good cartridge that has like, this is more like pristine condition, that is the $235. And that's even weirder. Yeah. So it's $235, still discounted, supposedly. And then the cosmetically flawed one is the one that is $170-ish. And
yeah,
that's a lot. Like, even the cosmetically flawed one is at the price where on eBay, the games are looking a lot better. Like the cosmetic flaws are almost indistinguishable if they're there at all. Like it's people who take really good care of them that sell them for those prices. And that's kind of what we're working with right now in terms of ways you can get your hands on these games.
Yeah. And like, I also don't like with DK Oldies that you can't really see the thing you're buying. It's right. Like, you will be buying this. It'll come how it is. We'll just give you one of something. But like on eBay, you can see exactly what it is. So, but I understand the convenience, I guess.
Right. And that was like my biggest thing too, is it says cosmetically flawed and it has this big disclaimer is like it could have all kinds of stuff wrong with it. But I do think that if you're going to ask that kind of money, and I don't want to pick on them specifically, like a lot of people pick on them, other stores that sell used games also have pretty wild prices.
Yeah.
I think though that you owe it to customers to show them exactly what they're buying. And the only other comparison I can really make in terms of price is like, where else can you get this for a reasonable price? And if you think GameStop, they sell used games. The thing is, GameStop's stock of old games is not great. They kind of stopped selling old games for a while and then they brought it back. So I think they offloaded a lot of that stuff and they're kind of rebuilding their supply. But they have Pokemon Fire Red version for For pro members, $53. Except they don't.
Wait, they did. Well, okay. Sometimes, like rarely, GameStop recently has been having some stocks of some retro games, and they've been pretty good prices. So you might get lucky one day, but then like usually they don't really have a good stock of games that are really old, unfortunately.
Yeah. Often it will tell me that I can actually like put it in the cart as long as I'm willing to verify my address. And then as soon as I verify my address, it's like, oh, we don't have that.
Okay, wait, can I tell you a story about GameStop?
Yes.
Really quick. Okay, so I used to work at Tropical Smoothie, which is like this smoothie place, and they also serve some food. But next to Tropical Smoothie was a GameStop. So like every day after my shift, I would just like go in the GameStop and like talk to people about games. Cause like I didn't have a lot, when I went to school, not a lot of people liked video games.
Oh.
And so I was like, I was in like high school at this time, and they would have like some older games. And this is during the Xbox 360 period of like selling games. And so they would have like a shelf for old retro games and stuff for pretty good prices. So like apparently they have like a set time that they let it sit on the shelf before they get like too much inventory that they want to like make room on the shelves to put new inventory on.
Okay.
And with the old inventory, they would destroy the old games basically, because they didn't corporate didn't really see like the value in them. And so not only would they throw them out, so they were throwing them out at just like in the dumpster and not really doing anything to them, but people started like realizing that GameStop was doing this. So they would dumpster dive, and you could even find like old videos on YouTube about GameStop dumpster diving. People still do it, but they don't really throw away a lot of retro games anymore.
Are they still throwing away games in general?
Yeah, they are.
No way.
Yeah. So, well, it's not as much, but they do throw away like some games and game cases. I watched one recently actually, and there was like, I don't know, some like Lego games that were still in the case, some like things they don't really deem that worth, you know, but they still do throw away games. They would throw away like crazy stuff back in the day, and people realized this and started like dumpster diving for it. But then GameStop realized that they were dumpster diving, and they just didn't want people on their property doing that. So they started instructing the employees to destroy any games they were throwing away. So they would like take scissors to discs and like take like another scissor and like cut cartridges, like DS cartridges and all that, and like throw them away so they can't be used. So I was talking when I was talking to the workers, they were like, yeah, it's bad. And they weren't allowed to take anything home either.
I'm going to scream. I just can't imagine. So like you sell your games to GameStop, you sell like a Pokemon cartridge, you're done with it, but maybe your old save data's on there, and you go home that day and you think someone's going to like maybe see my Pokemon and all the funny nicknames I gave them and all that stuff. Nope. Right in the incinerator. Just gone.
Yeah. I don't know how long exactly they sat on the shelves, but yeah.
It probably, I have to imagine it's a pretty significant amount of time, but the idea that this is happening to this day still, it makes me want to just rage. There's so much waste in the world. Like, okay, my horrifying story about people throwing stuff away. If anyone's ever worked at a grocery store, I'm sure you can relate to this. At grocery stores, a lot of them have like a deli kind of area, and they make like fresh food all day, you know, and people can come up and get chicken or pasta salad or whatever. I would come in, I was working like overnight for a while, and I did not do that very long. It's a lot. So I would get to be there at the end of the day when everyone is kind of wrapping up their different sections of the store. And that was when the deli would come in, and oftentimes we're talking like 2 trash cans the size of big drums, like 50-gallon, or I have no idea what the size would be. Massive trash cans, about, you know, half as tall as a person. And they were full to the brim of food that didn't get sold that day.
Yeah.
And they would be dumping that out. This is very common. A lot of stores, grocery stores, do this. And there's different reasons they'll tell you. It's like, well, we can't really give some of this food away. It's gonna go bad too soon, and then we're liable if someone eats it and gets hurt or whatever. Like, there's all kinds of different things that go on that companies do to kind of justify throwing things away like that. But video games, like, can we not just donate them to like a children's hospital or something?
I know, right? Like just like set aside a separate bin or something.
Ugh.
They thought basically they were very forward future thinking. They were like, okay, people aren't going to want the older games when they can just get the newer ones. We got to put up the new. So they reserved a lot of their shelves for like the new Xbox games or something like that. Like a lot of copies of Call of Duty and all of that. So people could have enough stock, I guess.
I get it. I mean, the store has limited space on the shelves.
Yeah.
But to tell the employees, you can't take this home. So they know it's valuable. Like, well, that's like another form of compensation. Like, we can't work that in. And you can't give them away. You can't donate them. Like, it would be just a tax write-off. That's the thing. Companies love a tax write-off. You could just donate. You could tally up the value of all these games, have these overworked, underpaid employees sit there and scan all the games into some system that tallies them all up. You put them in a big cart and you take them down to your local video game food bank. And you're like, here, this is all the stuff we didn't sell this year.
Yeah. You know what a SKU is, right? An SKU.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's like basically the identifying number of like how you determine what a product is or whatever. They deleted, like, because I talked to the employees about this, they deleted all of their older SKU numbers for the older games. Eventually, at one point in a certain year, I don't remember when it was, like probably around 2007, 2010 or something like that, somewhere in that range. They just deleted all of their old SKUs and like got rid of all of their old stock and just didn't carry it anymore. So like, I'm pretty sure they had like a massive purge during that date where they just like got either sold at a sale of what their old games or threw them away. I don't know.
Wait. Was this an accident? Like they didn't mean to?
No, this is corporate. Cause I also did research about this before this podcast just to make sure I had it right. Cause it sounded crazy in my head.
Okay.
The corporate basically said that they don't want to carry the older games anymore because they didn't see the value in them. They just wanted to sell the newer releases and digital cards.
I'm going to have to ask you to link me to this story just so I can put it in the show notes. I want people to be able to see this for themselves. This is
I will.
This is information that's publicly available. This isn't some big scoop or anything. I'm just shocked because I naively thought that these games at GameStop, like if they didn't get sold, were just kind of sitting in the back, or maybe they ship them off to a more centralized warehouse where they could just be sold over time online.
Yeah, I think they do have warehouses for it, but they must. I don't know all the insider information.
I'm just, my jaw is on the floor because I am here. I'm like, Wilbo, I want to do this podcast where I talk about these retro games because you're never going to believe this. But did you know games from the year that you just said, like 2007 and beyond, are really hard to come by now, to the point where they're being like resold at way nutty prices. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can totally relate to that. It's enraging to think that some of the games I'm looking for right now existed in droves. Like just so many copies of them are just lost because this massive corporation was like, burn it. Just get rid of it. I don't want it anymore. It's just a travesty.
I have to imagine that they kept like I don't know what their warehouse situation is, but I have to imagine they kept some of it. But then they like around 2015 or something like that, or 2014, they quietly added back their SKUs. So like for older games, and they started selling them again through like the GameStop Classic service because they saw the demand. But at that point, they had already like destroyed or gotten rid of their stock, like a lot of it.
This is exactly why I'm like getting into this stuff again now. Just not I didn't know this, but just the idea that it's difficult to get this stuff. And it should be cherished. This is stuff that we should value because our options our other options are either, fight over the scraps that are left from, I guess, the GameStop purge of the early 2000s, or we can all give our money to bootleggers, or we can emulate these games by getting them from dubious links online. And I don't think that's any skin off Nintendo's back if people do that, because they don't give us a way to get these games, the ones we're talking about specifically, on their own modern services. Like the Pokemon games don't exist currently at the time we're recording this, don't exist in the library right now, the Game Boy Advance library. So until that happens, people are making that moral argument of like, oh, it's fine to pirate this. If it's against the law, my stance is, well, no, it's not. Like, objectively, it's not fine because we've made laws that say it's not fine. But it's also not okay to like price them up at these wild prices, to making them to a point where they're completely unattainable. What tips do you have for trying to like get your hands on stuff today for a reasonable price?
That's it's hard. Facebook Marketplace has been pretty like but this is like if you want to go in person, you know, like make in-person deals. Facebook Marketplace is a pretty good place for like people who genuinely want to get rid of their older games for a fair price. And like people, I don't want to say taking advantage of certain people, but some people might not know exactly what they have. You could offer them a very fair price that isn't like too crazy, but being like, oh, hey, this is a Pokemon game. It's actually worth this. I'd be willing to pay you this if you come meet me in person, you know, is what a lot of people have been doing to like get better deals on those types of games.
Right.
Other than that, it's been hard to come across. I also I wanted to play Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, so I bought Japanese copies because there's a lot more Japanese copies of older like Japanese games that are like than US. So you would just have to play the game in Japanese, which I did. I've been doing.
Did you find it like difficult or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little difficult, but with a game like Pokemon, you're spamming the same move often. So like, it's not too bad. And then you could use Google Translate or Lens or whatever.
Because even the remakes, the 3DS remakes of Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby are also no longer in print. And there's no digital storefront to get them from anymore. Like those are also games that I happen to own, thankfully. But if you don't own them, there's no like legitimate way to get them other than these things we've been talking about. So Facebook Marketplace is one. I will say that eBay, you know, for the the dangers I was pointing out earlier, it's still probably my favorite way to get this stuff.
Yeah.
It just takes a bit of research. You want to always look at a couple things. Look at the reviews of the seller. Look at how long they've been selling. Because even if they're in the high 90s, meaning they've had a couple negative reviews in their time, if they've been doing this for so many years, like people are bound to make mistakes. But if they haven't been around very long and you see that they're in like the high 90 percentile of positive reviews, but they only have like a few dozen reviews, then there's kind of a problem there. That's a mistake made in a very short amount of time. And then my other tip for eBay, pay attention to the country it's coming from, because I've made the mistake of buying stuff that is actually coming from like Japan or China. It's the English copy of like a game, for example. But thanks to the moment in history we live in right now, there's tariffs on everything. And so people will happily sell you something and you'll forget that like it's going to get shipped over here from overseas, and then it's going to be hit with a tariff and you're going to have to deal with that. So those are kind of my tips. Make sure it's within your home country for like the easiest, smoothest transaction, and make sure the seller has good reviews. And make sure you read the description, because if I didn't read the description of those inauthentic games, I would never have seen that they were openly admitting that the game was inauthentic.
Yeah, it's very important to read the description. And it's like kind of hard, like eBay's UI sometimes a little hard to follow, because they have like the product description and then they have like the seller's description of the product. And so like you have to read very carefully and make sure that you can see what the seller actually wrote, compared to what like the generated whatever, like Pokemon Heart Gold is a game where you can, then the seller will be like, this is a fake copy or something in the description, the actual description.
That keeps their reviews positive, because if they openly admit that and people know what they're buying, then it's, everyone's fine. And then I guess the last tip, which you've already kind of like talked about a little bit, is just going out in person to places. Like you went to a game expo of sorts.
Yeah, and I was able to get a good deal on a couple of games.
Was there anything in particular you were looking for while you were there?
I was looking for Kirby Return to Dreamland. Unfortunately, they didn't have that. Well, they did, but the problem is a lot of vendors get like first pick of all the good games and stuff. And like some people get in early through other reasons. I don't really know. And then I was able to find a couple PS2 games and stuff. So that was fun.
Which ones?
Oh, well, there's this game called Lifeline that I played on like the emulators. And so I wanted to own a real copy. And so I bought it. It's this game where you use like voice commands to control your character. And you guide her out of like a spaceship situation. And you're like the guy in the chair who's on the security cameras. I don't know. It's a really unique game and I like it. So I wanted it.
How do you input the voice commands?
You connect it came with a headset mic that you connect to the PlayStation and you say like, walk here, shoot, dodge right. It does get tedious.
Did you get that accessory? Did you need it?
I do still need the accessory to play it. I couldn't find it complete, but apparently any headset mic will work. So
that was gonna be my next question. Like, could you just plug in whatever? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I like weird games like that. There's like a charm to it.
I've never heard of that. That sounds like I would have had a blast with it growing up if I had that.
It could get a little frustrating. It gets a little difficult.
I was already yelling at the games. I mean, having them hear me would probably have been helpful.
But I love the story. It's really nice. It's classic sci-fi kind of thing.
That's cool. My last tip for getting games as well is going to be buying a lot of games. And when I say lot, I don't mean buy a lot of games. I mean, buy games that are in a lot together. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you can get some pretty good deals, especially if, now this is a risk you're taking. Now I'm just going to put a disclaimer. You're taking a risk if you're listening to me right now and you do this, but you can buy oftentimes cartridges that are like labeled as ones that are not working. And sometimes, in fact, in a lot of cases, it's really a matter of opening them up. Like N64, for example, you open up the cartridge and you use isopropyl alcohol and you gently scrub off the, junk on the contacts. And I watched a video about this where someone bought like 100 or so cartridges and every single one worked. They just took them all apart, did that, put them back together. Every single cartridge turned on.
Yeah.
So you can't do much if it's chipped or anything. If the motherboard has been broken, obviously you can't do much about that. But if the seller is saying, yeah, these games don't reliably like turn on or whatever, but there's stuff in there that you want, there's not that much risk if you're willing to get a little technical, if you're willing to buy a couple extra tools. And that's what got me into like some deeper parts of this hobby. I've started to fix up old Game Boys, and I bought a lot of 6 broken Game Boys, and 3 of them came back to life just by opening them up and like scrubbing them real good. Some of them were beyond repair. They obviously had like water damage and all kinds of stuff wrong with them. And I was replacing the screens anyway. All of them had busted screens, but like it felt really good to be able to kind of like give some of these Game Boys a new life just because I wanted to. I just felt like it. I wasn't even in the market for a Game Boy. I was just bored. And I'm like, oh, I like doing these little Game Boy mods. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love fixing up gold consoles too. That's what I used to like even in college, I loved fixing up old Game Boy SPs. It is really fun to like clean it up, give it new life, maybe do like a screen mod on it or something.
Yeah, classic console mods right now are just a really fun way to get into these hobbies and pretty accessible. I mean, you'll spend some money if you are going to do screen replacements and things like that, but it definitely gives the hobby like this whole new kind of like purpose to it. You could turn around and maybe sell those modded consoles so they actually go to a home with somebody who's going to use them. You could collect those yourself and just have like a little collection of like stuff that you fixed up. And I'm really like at a stage where I'm just getting into all of that.
Yeah. I think it's really fun to learn too. This is like getting into the nerd stuff though. A lot of people just want to play their old games, but if you're willing to, it's a really fun like little project to be like, oh, I want to maybe clean up this old Game Boy. And something as simple as like buying isopropyl alcohol and cleaning it a little bit and like just taking it apart is like a really good start if you ever wanted to get into doing something like that. So I think that's really good advice.
I'm also learning to solder, and you specifically, I pestered a lot with like tips and stuff. Like you helped me find a good soldering kit. And then I don't even know how late it got. It must have been late for you because it was late for me. You were just still taking my questions. Like while I was sitting there making a huge mess in my kitchen trying to fix this Game Boy.
I love stuff like that though. I don't know. Even if it like the dead of night, I would answer.
Those I think sum up the tips pretty well. You can buy sometimes broken games, and as long as GameStop didn't take their scissors to them, you could probably fix them up and have yourself a nice little collection that didn't cost too much, which is probably how I'm going to continue to expand my N64 collection. Well, I think this will probably have to be a separate episode, maybe with you or I don't know, someone else out there who gets one of these. I actually bought the the analog 3D.
Ooh.
For anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Yeah, so Wilbo earlier mentioned the Analog Pocket, the FPGA console for Game Boy games.
Mm-hmm.
And what I just bought was from the same company, but it's for N64 cartridges. So you plug in your N64 cartridge, and the promise is that it's going to take that and upscale it to like 4K, and it's not emulating the game. It's running the game on non-original hardware, but it is running the cartridge. And that is so exciting because the N64 games are the ones I kept from childhood.
Oh, awesome. Wait, what's your favorite N64 game? Actually, wait, this is another podcast episode.
It could be, but I will, for teasing purposes, I don't want to get anyone too excited. It's probably going to be Mario 64 because I'm that basic.
Nice.
But there's some others. Like I have Rampage, which is a lot of fun. You're a monster and you destroy a city. Mario Kart was always great, and I'm really excited to play that again, like in a living room setting. I have the controllers as well that 8-Bit Do made to go along with the Analog 3D, which is not out yet at the time of recording this. They keep delaying it. They just delayed it for like a third time to like the end of the year, which is really frustrating. But I have the controllers, and they're really cool. It's like, imagine if someone made an N64 controller with all those buttons in the weird places that they're in, but they made it feel like a normal controller and not that weird 3-pronged monstrosity we used to play with.
That sounds really cool. I don't know. I like the third-party controllers that are coming out nowadays. Like I have the SNES one from 8-Bit Do, and it's really nice. So
they have a lot. Yeah, that company in particular has like a lot of different neat controllers. So I got a couple of those, and it's just cool to imagine like pretty soon I'm going to have an N64 that has Bluetooth support and works with my modern television. And I still have my old N64, but I don't have like a CRT to play it on. So whatever I plug it into, it just looks terrible. That's the kind of gamer
that's
I am.
how it's supposed to look, Dan.
I know, but that's the kind of gamer I am. I love playing old games with a fresh coat of paint on them.
Yeah, it's nice to see the polygons sharp and like in 4K too.
It's so fun, and so I'm really looking forward to it. The future of retro games, which is an ironic thing to say, despite how difficult these are to obtain, looks really good because the community has kind of come together and made some really cool stuff.
Just to tie it in a little bit, you know how you were talking about GameStop like cutting old cartridges and stuff? Well,
I don't want to think about it anymore.
They would also do this with because they had distribution cartridges for the Pokemon and stuff. And so they would cut them, and some people went and repaired some of them and like gotten them working again. So I believe, some of the stuff that was already destroyed could be like fixed. And a lot of people are like making projects. For example, if you have like a really water damaged version of Pokemon Crystal, someone made like a whole new board you could order for it and like transfer the chips and stuff. So I think retro gaming is going to be alive in like a lot of different ways with like the community making like different options to bring it modern a little bit or like fix old ones more easily.
I love the kind of project too. With the modded Game Boys, they have something like that too, where you can get a kind of a blank motherboard and transfer the chips of the Game Boy Advance onto it and have like a brand new Game Boy Advance. All you need is the CPU and the RAM. I did not know that was a thing for games, but that's not surprising. I think everything that's being made for retro games right now, that's just awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So, Wilbo, thank you for being the first guest on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Where can people find you?
They could find me at youtube.com/Wilbo's World. Just all one word, WILBOS World. Also on Twitch, I think. And that's it.
You think?
Oh, no. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, all the things too. Sometimes with an underscore.
Wait, okay. So you might be on Twitch. You're definitely on YouTube. And sometimes there's an underscore in your name.
Yeah. So that should give you all the information you need to find me pretty much.
I will just put some links, I guess, in the show notes. Thank you to Wilbo, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to Sticker Shock Collector's Edition. You can learn more about this episode and our show by following us on Patreon. It's at patreon.com/stickershockpod, where you can subscribe for free to see our show notes and maybe any other images sent in by our guests featuring their collections, things like that. You can also find us on Blue Sky at Sticker Shock Pod as well. Our podcast artwork was created by Han and music by composer Cleo. We have new episodes every other week, so hopefully we'll catch you in the next one.